Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the Clergy Council for 50 years of uninterrupted Interfaith Thanksgivings here in East Brunswick. I think they deserve a round of applause. That says everything you need to know about East Brunswick. I also want to thank St. Bartholomew's for hosting it this evening, and of course Holly Cerami for corralling all of us together every single year to get this off the ground. One of the wonderful things I get to do as mayor is to marry couples. And in doing that, it's often my job to try to give them some sort of advice on how to keep a marriage going. And I often will tell them that a marriage is like a journey. You don't know which way that journey is going to go. Sometimes it's going to hit side roads, sometimes it's going to hit uphill, sometimes you're going to get some bumps in the road. And with marriages, divorce rate at 50% these days, you need to develop some techniques to stay on that ride because you don't know which way it's going to go. And some of the things that we'll talk about is having a sense of humor, recognizing that nobody's perfect, looking at the world as if it's a glass half full and not half empty. And it depends on where you place your attention. If you want to look at all the horrible things in the world, we could point in those directions. You could also look at the really wonderful things that are happening around all the time. Now, if you listen to newspapers and to social media, you're going to think that everything is horrible. You're going to think that the world is polarized, that we're all angry and unhappy and intolerant of one another. But my experience on the ground, when you actually talk to people regularly and stop listening to the news and take a break from social media, is that you'll find that on the ground, when you talk face to face with folks, all of that just isn't so. A couple of days ago, I put a post on social media. I went in a bagel store just for some morning bagels and bumped into a bunch of friends, some from Milltown, some from East Brunswick, and we sat down, started talking about things, and so somebody snapped a picture of us, and I simply posted that here we are solving the world's problems in a bagel shop. And of course, somebody had to write, well, he couldn't pick East Brunswick. But clearly that person wasn't in the majority. The vast number of people thought it was a wonderful post. I also recently had an occasion to read an article in the paper that just came out over the weekend about redevelopment of the mall. And I think that the newspaper was looking at all of the social media chatter about businesses being closed. Of course, nobody's talking about the fact that no one's been there for the past 50 years and it needs to be redeveloped, and the owners are entitled to do that. But all you see is that chatter. And then, of course, the media picks up on that, and you start to think that everybody is just angry about that decision until you actually talk to people on the ground, and most of them realize that this is just a phase. We need to move in a new direction. It's just what's normal. Years ago, I was in the airport in Atlanta. I had a cousin that I was meeting in Atlanta. She was coming up from Florida. We were seeking a treatment in Germany for her cancer, which she had failed everything here. And while we're in the airport, I didn't realize that Atlanta Airport is the place that our military often uses to launch operations. For anybody going overseas, they usually go through Atlanta. And the troops were coming through. I have to think that they couldn't be more than 16, 17, 18 years of age, men and women. And everybody moves to the side and gives them a round of applause. Except one dude behind me, which rumbled loudly enough for everybody to hear, oh, well, does anybody clap for me when I go to work every morning? And I turned around to him, I said, dude, do you really put your life on the line every day when you go to work? Because these kids are doing that. They're not getting paid very much, and the whole safety and security of this country, the world for that matter, is on their backs. So, to close this out in terms of a story, the world isn't a glass half empty. I was recently at the library, good library we have, right? Yes. And there was I had about a half hour on my hands to just kill because there wasn't much, shocking, but there was nothing for me to do. So I was catching up on some emails, and a couple that lives in this town who's been here forever, kids went through the school system, really wonderful people, but I hadn't seen them in a while, and they were sitting right across from me. And the wife looks at the husband, and I can hear her say, "Honey, that's the mayor, isn't it?" And he looks at her and says, "Yes, dear, that's the mayor." And I thought that was really cute until she did that for about the 6th time. And then it was obvious that she's obviously in some stage of dementia. But the point was that in looking at this man, in his eyes, his wife looks like the same person he married probably 60 years ago. The beautiful woman that he started the marriage with 60 years down the line. So the fact is that most of the time, the glass is half full. So if there's a Thanksgiving message that I have for everybody, it's to tune out the noise. Let's apply cancel culture to negativity. When others point to polarization and isolation, we need to point out the many more examples of cooperation and community. When others point to selfishness, we need to point that there's many more examples of selflessness. And when others point out despair, we need to know with a certainty that there is far more hope. So may you all and your families have a happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving, and God bless you.